joining us. This is Live with the Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Scott Janowitz, former judge, and now you want that old job back again, so you're running for judge. And tell us about the group. What does that mean when you're in Group 29?
So there's really not a lot to it, except that we have 123 judges in Miami, and they each have 6-year terms, and you have to sort of put them together to know what races and which judges are up when. And that's all it means. It has nothing to do with courthouse or what type of judge you are, what division. It's just for election purposes only.
And you were a judge for what years were those?
2020. I was appointed in April of 2020, and then I was a judge until January of 23.
So it must have been a pretty exciting time for you to draw you back again.
Yes, it was an amazing experience. I was glad to be able to do a lot of good, I think, for the community, and I was very proud of my record and everything I did. And in the time off, I've been doing a lot of lawyering, but people talk to me, and they said they've missed me on the bench, and they wanted to support me, and they thought I should run and get back on. So that's what I'm doing.
So when did you know you wanted to become a lawyer or a judge?
Well, I could tell you about both of them. Actually, a lawyer was not my first job. I was actually a business and technology consultant out of Carnegie Mellon as my first career. And I did that for about 3 years. And then it was 2001, 2002, and the bubble had burst and technology firms were laying off people. And unfortunately, I was one of those who was laid off, and I was figuring out my career.
Wait, how old were you at that point?
At that point, I was 23. So
a big famous
23,
college,
24, yeah.
Right? Really bright colleagues they were there. And so you say, okay, what now?
What now? I was thinking business school. I was thinking law school. I was thinking remaining.
Was that undergraduate from there?
Yes, from Carnegie Mellon, yes.
Okay.
And after that, I was just like, but I always wanted to help people. That's kind of always my thing. My dad's a doctor and a lawyer and my mom was a nurse. And it was always ingrained in me. Do well in school, study hard, but do something that also helps people. Be a good person. When
did you start recognizing about being a good person and being influenced by them? What age range was that?
Pretty early on. I was very, very close with my grandfather, who since passed away, and he owned businesses. And he used to always tell me, the money doesn't make the man makes the money. And he used to always instill on me that it was important to be a good person. And between that and my parents, it was...
What age was that when he was telling you that?
Probably 6 or 7.
One of the things that we found in doing this, if you're lucky, it gets ingrained at that age to where you can work on that. So here you are many years later, 25 or 30 at least, all right, to where you want to help people. So when people go to court, lots of times they're really angry at the other person. And certainly mediation, it helps sort of makes that go away. Because people say, listen, if you have to go next door and go to court, somebody else is going to decide. Here, the two of you can sort of work that out. So when a case is settled prior to it getting to you, what's your thought process on the inside as far as being involved in that?
Well, it depends on how it came about. A lot of times cases will go to mediation and the judge won't know about it. And in case if the judge didn't know about them, they may sign an order dismissing a case and they won't have any involvement. If it's a case that sometimes a judge sends to mediation because they've talked to both parties, especially in county court, which is the position I'm seeking, we do a lot of small claims cases, which are cases under $8,500, in which case most of the time, at least one of the sides does not have an attorney, if not both sides don't have an attorney. And so you're dealing with the people directly. And you're talking to them, you're like, you know what? Rather than trying to talk to me about it, why don't you go next door to a mediator and work it out and see if you can work it out. Talk to each other. And when you get those orders back saying this case can be dismissed because we reached an agreement, it is actually a good feeling.
Yeah. And one of the things I never lose sight of is when you have attorneys on both sides, they represent their clients vigorously. And it costs a lot of money to do that. And so when you think about all the money and all the grief that was there, I'm with you. Go settle it. Because at the end of the day, you're going to spend that money one place or the other, either giving it to him, all right, or giving it to somebody else. And whenever we're involved in something, I typically say, the best settlement is one that you're not happy and that I'm not happy. So we can do this now, or we're going to go spend a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of effort, and we're going to be just as unhappy as we are today. So in the cases that you were involved with, that typically when it goes to a jury trial, you're there sort of mediating the trial. How does explain how that works?
Well, I wouldn't say mediating a trial because it's a lot more than that. I think people don't quite understand that though, because that's a common belief. But really, you're running the trial. You are overseeing it, and so it starts from beginning to end. First of all, a prospective jury panel, the members of our community who otherwise don't want to be there but are getting a summons to be there, come in, and you have to help pick a jury, and you have to tell the people and instruct the people and give them knowledge of what's going on, and then you have to run the show, as a director, and make sure that everything's on the tracks and everything's going smoothly. And then you have to rule on objections. And quite frankly, that's always the biggest part, both sides objecting and you having to decide which objection, if it's sustained or overruled.
So how does it feel when you're rendering an opinion that that one side or the other may appeal that, and that that somebody on the one side or the other is going to find fault in what you've done? How do you process that?
Well, does it sometimes enter your head? Absolutely, especially if it's a big issue. You think about it and you're reading, you read the law. Obviously, you're getting an issue, and if it's that big an issue, you're going to research and you're going to study and you're going to analyze. And in the back of your head, that, well, if this goes out all the way, yeah, you may get appealed. But frankly, and I don't know any judge who would say differently, at the end of the day, you have to do what you believe is the right decision under the law. And I was lucky that I never actually got overturned by the appellate court.
Wow.
So, at the end of the day, I guess I made good decisions, and that's important.
So, if you get elected, what are some of your top priorities that you would like to see take place?
So, I like to say I want to continue what I did. I don't think I necessarily ran the best campaign last time, but I think what I did as a judge went well. And I want to expand some of that. I got on right when COVID hit, and so I'm kind of known as a COVID judge. And so I helped, because of my technology background, bring the circuit to Zoom and this remote platform.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
And then we had to deal with making sure people got notices and how we're going to do that and how do people get Zoom notices. And then as the pandemic was sort of subsiding, how do we transition back, and what were we going to look like with a hybrid, with both remote and on-site operations. The biggest thing I did, though, which I want to continue, and it's my biggest goal, I would say, is I want to expand upon the work I did with what's called court help. So I started, and I saw all these evictions happening, and unfortunately, as a county court judge, evictions makes up a very big part of our dockets. And if anyone's not aware, which hopefully you're not, at the end of the day, it's very hard for tenants to really stay where they are. And when a final judgment's entered, under non-pandemic times, or I should say pre-pandemic times, there'd be a final judgment, and within a week, the sheriff's office knocking on the door of the tenant and saying you have 24 hours to vacate. And as we all know, that's going to cause a lot of angst, and it causes an increase of homelessness, of social services, of crime. Obviously, these tenants aren't necessarily caring about the landlord and the house they're vacating, so there tends to be some destruction that occurs, and intentional destruction at times. And I saw that as a big problem, and I was like, we can do something about that. So actually, I went to the county board of county commissioners, as a judge, which you never heard of really. A judge just really sits there in the courtroom and do things. And I was like, no, I'm going out there, and I got funding to start a program, an additional mediation program, an alternative dispute resolution program that got landlords and tenants to start talking to each other when an eviction case got filed. Now, I had to operate within the law because the statutes say what the statutes say. But I wanted to start this program. It's called Court Help, Court Housing Eviction Landlord Tenant Portal. I named it, so I'm very, very happy about it. And we got landlords and tenants to talk to each other, to avoid the expense of bringing their lawyers, to avoid the time of coming to the courthouse and having to fight everything. And they could reach agreements on whatever they wanted to reach an agreement about. It could be the rent, it could be a whole new term, it could be, partial agreements. It could even be, hey, I'm moving out, but I need 3 more weeks, and it's orderly. Now I want to expand that to small claims cases and whatever else we can expand that to, so people can talk.
So it gives everybody a time to pause and figure out, because we know when you go to the fight, all right, you're pushing. There's a physician that provides health care nearby to our diverse community here in South Miami. So one of her families, that's what she calls them, was evicted. 2 of the girls, one was already accepted at FIU, and the other one was about to be scholarships. And there it was, right outside the apartment. All their stuff, mom and dad and the two kids. One of the girls wanted to drop out, but eventually what happened is this doctor put them up in a hotel, so it could pause the stuff and be able to get them into a better place. And so often that's what's needed. Hey, what's happened? All right. And everybody loses. The landlord does not win. All right. Landlord, at that point, they're owed probably 2 months or 3 months. All right. And you got all this stuff going on. And then they go out, and then you have to redo the whole place. All right. Besides the damage, have been in there for a year or two. So the landlord gets back in an empty apartment, going to spend a month or 2 or 3. Go ahead and sue them. See if you're ever going to get your money.
Right. And they got to relist it, get an agent to relist it, find a new tenant.
So what caused you to think about doing that?
What caused me was I was doing it. I was having to sign these evictions, and I saw the issue. And it was during the pandemic, so I knew there was some pauses that were happening, but I could see the effects, and I'd been told of what goes on and everything else. And I originally was given the idea by then Chief Judge Soto. She had come to the county court and said, there's a chance for a grant for some additional program that can help with some virtual, because we're in a pandemic. And we thought about it, and we said, you know what? We want to put our money in a program into that, and I was tasked, and I was given the responsibility to lead this team, to lead this project.
So when we think about COVID and how devastating it was, there are a lot of changes that have taken effect that are permanent changes. Zoom, permanent, which before is like, what's Zoom, right? Which was not, it was a car that went zoom, zoom, or a drink or whatever it was. And then we have, and congratulations on pushing that forward. And we have these programs that are available to give people another chance. And I think that's great. So are you involved at all in improving the lives of people's mental health and healthcare?
As much as I can.
Okay.
I do it in the way we can do it. I say we because it's my wife and I, and we're definitely a team. And I've known her 25 years, and we've been together, and we have our 3 kids. First of all, we're foster parents, and so we've had 3 foster kids, and we feel that's a big help as much as we can. We try to focus on the children, because the children are not only the future, they're the present, and they're kind of like the one thing everyone agrees on. Everyone always agrees you got to take care of children, and they're the most vulnerable part. And so we've done that. We put in an autism garden at our local public school.
Autism guard?
Yeah, a garden.
Garden.
Oh,
okay.
A garden that's filled with, which is nice. It has a safe space. It has some gadgets and areas for autistic children to play in safely. It's the Sylvania Heights Elementary School.
Okay.
We did it
here
in the city of West Miami, which is where I live.
Yep.
We were glad to be able to work with that in conjunction with Commissioner Kevin Cabrera was a big help and supporter of it, as well as our school board member Monica Colucci. She came to the opening of it as well, and the principals and the staff there are amazing. And that just came about because my wife was just going to school with my kids and volunteering, and the autistic kids, and she was helping garden because she likes to garden, and the autistic kids were coming and wanting to be involved, and she noticed that there wasn't an area for them to be able to do that. So
you have a very young mayor over there in West Miami.
Yes, Eric's a
I
great
think
guy.
he started shaving recently. So there you go. So we work with Rabbi Yossi Harley with the Friendship Circle, and we had a meet and greet here with him. And the vision that he had, being able to provide services for people, not just kids, but people with autism, was really extraordinary. It was a plan from 20 years ago. And we're seeing more things like what you brought up, because on Miller and 122nd Avenue, a 5-acre parcel farmland, and they turned it into a zoo with artificial animals. They got the giraffe, they got the elephant, they got the tables, and I see the kids there, all the time. So one of the great things that has happened, and I don't know when it has started occurring, is people with problems is being moved up and out of the shadows. And that is so healthy for all of us, not just for them, but for all of us to say, no, we're all part of this. And at the Friendship Circle, one of the things they're doing there, it's in the same building as the synagogue.
Yes.
So people, they're going back and forth. It's not about you're over here and we're over here. And we see how we can make a difference.
Yeah, and they do great work over there. I've raised money for them, given money, and they've had walks where I've participated, and they've always been a good community partners. And that's the idea of it. The idea wasn't, and the nice thing about Friendship Circle is they have kids also helping kids. You have the teenagers helping that, and it's good to get that out in the open. So
when we asked him how he came up with Friendship Circle, he said, we weren't trying to do Friendship Circle. What we were trying to do is develop some program that kids in the community, they could go and volunteer their time. So that was the goal. Oh, there's the mechanism, so we can do that. And Raquel Regalado, our county commissioner, she has 2 adult autistic kids. And she said, they deserve a seat at the table. And when I was listening to her, I said, oh, yes, right? And so I'm glad to see that you're involved in that, because it really goes to your heart about how big it is and being able to try to include people and to be caring about people, because that carries on to your neighbors, to your wife, to your families. And so lots of good things for everybody to work on.
Yeah.
So we have an election that's taking place right now.
In the middle of it. Yep.
So tell us about that, as far as what's happening and when the last day to vote is.
So right now the election is open because they've sent out all the people who've requested mail-in ballots. I think yesterday was the last day to register to vote for the August 20th election. But you can vote by mail and request your ballot by, I think, up until August 10th. So those are out there and people have those. Early voting starts August 5th through the 18th. And then obviously election day is August 20th.
In the old days, it used to be one day.
One day, right.
Now it's like, it's wonderful. Sometimes people say, oh, I'm afraid my thing's going to get lost. I don't remember the last time I heard that. And you can track that. I remember calling, did you get it? This, yes, sir, Mr. Miller, this, and this. And it's really extraordinary.
Yeah, you can go online and even track your ballot.
Yeah, and it's like, people should not be concerned with that. If they are, they could actually take the ballot and deliver it to wherever. I don't know where it goes anymore. I put it at the post office. That's what I do with that.
Right. Or you can take it in person to the election department, which is in Doral, and I believe it's on 87th Avenue. I forget the exact address, but it's right there.
You mentioned that you worked with Zoom and helping improve things at the courthouse. So what does the technology of the future look like in administering the job of justice throughout Miami-Dade County?
Well, I mean, it's hard to project the future, especially in the court system, because we are tied to our budgets, and the court system tends to be lagging, and it's important that we do lag, because we can't really impose technology on the citizens of Miami-Dade County or lawyers just because we want to do something interesting. One thing we did learn from going to Zoom, though, for instance, is that a lot of elderly people and a lot of people without means didn't necessarily have smartphones or smart devices to be able to do Zoom on their at home. So we had to install computers with a partnership, install computers and devices at the lobbies of the courthouse, as well in some of the public libraries, so that people had a place to access it. So that was not something we necessarily thought of right away, but we had to adapt.
When consumers, residents see that, we're so happy that at least it's being acknowledged, even if it's not quite enough. We say, look, they're trying. Here's all the things that are out there.
But going to your other question, the future, it's trying to reach some sort of balance, because no one wants a complete remote courthouse. I used to joke with people that some days I felt like I was Max Headroom, for those people who are old enough to know Max Headroom in the 80s, where it was like kind of like dial up a judge, as opposed to having that engagement in court and getting your day in front of a judge and showing them the tangible evidence. And so we're trying to really reach that balance and about when it should be a remote and when it should be in person. And to go on, this is a countywide election. People can vote for you, correct, no matter where they live. No matter where they live, no matter what party. Judges are on every ballot that are printed. And when they see the group, that's not relevant. It's just a way to identify the different number of judges, the different judges that are going to be there. Right. Only one judge will get elected per group, but yeah, it has nothing to do with where they'll be. So county court different than circuit court. What's the big difference? The biggest difference, think county judges are smaller in jurisdictions. So if you're talking civil, you're talking less than 50,000. If you're talking criminal, you're talking misdemeanors, where circuit is above 50,000 all the way up to billions. And for crime, you're talking about felonies. So here it is. You'll know on August 20th? Yes, probably about 45 minutes after the polls close. You got your fingers crossed? Of course. You ready to go in? And when you get to vote, when do you start? When do I start what? Oh, when I get elected? January, I believe January 5th, but it would be the first, I think it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday in January. So you have a law practice now. How does that transition work? Well, you have to sort of, transition off your cases. So you're still allowed to, the laws permit you to still act, even if you get elected and you're elected, you still get to act as you're a lawyer, and you still get to make money until January. But you have to withdraw off all those cases, or get to help them find new lawyers, which is generally how it works. Resolve what you can, and then be down to zero and move on to judge, because you can't practice law and be a judge at the same time.
What a great conversation. You can say, listen, if we don't settle this, you're going to have to find a new lawyer. So let's do our part and get this done. So at least, we can be happy. Yeah. So tell us about your children and how old they are.
So my biological children, I have twins that are 8, and then I have a son who's 5, almost 6 next month. So
you've got a full house.
Full house. Plus we've had 3 foster kids, 2 girls from Guatemala that were 6 and 4, and a Ukrainian boy who is 4. So
you have that's now where you did have.
I did have the just very recently the Guatemalan girls were rehoused, and then we still have the Ukrainian boy.
So I wonder what that's like when you open your arms and then you get attached, knowing that one day they're not going to be there.
It's tough. However, you undergo rigorous training and background check. It took us 10 months to get licensed to be foster parents, and so it is constantly ingrained that and the way you look at it, you have to go into knowing that you are there to nurture, raise, keep safe, and raise a child in need until the court tells you otherwise. And so that's what we do. And if it's sooner, it's sooner. If it's later, it's later. So we've had the boy now since for 9 months. So of course, we're very, very attached to him, and when we care for him.
Did he speak English when he came?
When he came, he did not. He didn't speak English. No, when he came, he had never been in school. He only spoke Russian, and but he was very shy. Wasn't really talking at all. And now he's jibber jabbering away in English.
Okay, good for him, and good for you. So I'm sure that in your life, you've had plenty of people that you've admired and people that have been your mentors and have shown the way. I'd like you to think about one of them. All right. Does not say the one that was the best, but one that comes to your mind. You already know who it is, all right? And if you would please talk to them as if whether they're here or not, just look at the blue camera over there. Can we get them on the there we go. So just talk right over there. And
Sure. I mean, everyone knows that my hero is my dad, who passed away last September. But, in terms of my mentor legally, and especially rising to become a judge, it would definitely be Michael Gates, who was a circuit court judge in Broward County, who I was in front of for almost two plus years. Judge Gates, you were, quite the mentor. You always told me how to be fair, how to look at things, how to be prepared, how to see the forest through the trees, and understand how to, treat both sides with dignity, yet to do your job, efficiently, and to really make sure that the people's concerns are always addressed.
Terrific. Scott Janowitz, thank you very much for being here. Continued success with you. If people want to find out about you, they can go online, they can find you. You got your website. Why don't you give people your website
Sure,
address?
It's Vote Scott for Judge, and then .com, or you can always email me, votescottforjudge at gmail.com. I'll respond, and my number's 315 on the ballot.
Okay, terrific. Folks, thank you for joining us. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Thanks again. Bye.